Okay, so we'll come back. So let us see how we can do the gradient computation backpropagation on simple deep neural network. Okay. So what I would like to do, I would like to take a very simple network, just to establish the idea how it actually works, and then we take into slightly more complex network and see how it actually can be applied there. So let me just start up with a very simple network, probably the simplest one that you can consider. Okay. So you have only one feature, one-dimensional feature vector, like only one feature in your data. So data has two class, for instance, positive or negative, yes or no, something like this. And I have taken two hidden nodes only. Okay. Now you can see these different colors represents different kinds of nodes. So yellow is the input, X, green one is the output, and so on. Okay. And shaded ones are the hidden nodes and so on and so forth. Okay. So now, as you know, this W's and B's, W's are the weight parameters, B's are the biases parameters, and all, so on and so forth. Okay. Now my input is X, and my output produced by the network is O3. Okay, in this case. Okay. So of course, I want to adjust or find these values of these parameters W1, W2, W3, B1, B2, B3 in such a way that my model will perform very well on the training data, at least. Okay. So it should correctly predict the levels of the training data and all. All right. So before I get into the technical stuff, just quick few notations that every node will have an input, okay, because it is receiving information from the previous layer. So it has an input. So I denote by capital I, then input to node number I, of course, except the input node. Okay. Then what I will have, for every node, I will have an output, okay, which denoted by OI, that means output from node I. Okay. And F is the activation function that I'm applying here. It can be sigmoid function, ReLU function, and things like that. Okay. But I'm just taking the generic F function, and I will use that as a kind of rule. So you can apply it on sigmoid and things like that. It's pretty straightforward to kind of extend the whole thing. All right. So this is the network that I have for this one. Now, as a designer, I have this thing initially. I do not know anything about the W's and B's and all. All I know, I have some data, training data X. I know their corresponding O3 values and all, and I have no idea what the values would be for B's and W's. Okay. Now, as a designer, my next step would be to figure out those values and how to do that. Okay. Next question that I want you to ask yourself. So, how is typically done? So here, as you know, the I1, I'm now basically computing the inputs to every node in this. So I1, that means input to the first node, is W1 into X plus B1. The same like linear combination of values that you have seen. Okay, that's the standard definition of the computation on neural network. Okay. Similarly, O1 is equals to F1 I1 because you're simply applying the activation function on the input, and that's basically your output. Okay. Next. So I2 would be W2 into F of I1 plus B2, because now the input to this node, the signal that you're receiving from the previous node 1, and previous node is basically F1 I1. Okay, and so it has biases B2, so you can compute that. Similarly, the O2 is going to be F of I2. Simply like you apply the activation function and you get this value. Okay. Third, I3 is going to be W3 star F of I2 plus B3, and O3 is going to be F of I3. That's the O3 is going to be produced by your network. Okay. Anybody has any question on this? So this is called the forward propagation, how we are actually computing from the input node to the output node, all the values and all. Does anybody have any question? Okay, all right. So now next let's move on. Okay. So now I know that my network is this, and every node I have some input, some output, and I know already how to compute input and output and all so on and so forth. But I really need to know W's and B's. Otherwise, I cannot compute the actual values, numeric values. Okay, I need to know that. All right. So what would be my next job or next like task? Okay. So I need to define an error or performance function. And the error and performance function is going to tell how well my network is doing. Okay, because I have to find these values, W's and B's. Okay. What can be a possible error function? There are many error functions which we will discuss, but for the time being, we can take the squared error. Okay, so E is equals to half of O3 minus Y squared. What it is telling is that the difference between the predicted value of this network, the prediction given by the network, and the actual value, which is Y, the gold standard. Okay, so that's the basic thing. So I want to adjust, or I want to find these W's and B's in such a way that I will have the minimum error, right? That's what I want to do, and that's my objective function. I want to minimize this value, minimize this function E. Okay. So all right. So now, so what is the predicted by the neural network? Y is the gold standard from your training data, which is coming because in your training data you have all the gold standard for every sample. Okay, so on and so forth. So yeah. So now the question is, how can we find the good values of these parameters? Okay, so simply by gradient descent, because I have to minimize this error function with respect to the parameters. Here I have 6 parameters, W's and B's. Okay, and we have already seen that we can apply gradient descent to minimize this value. Okay, at least we can find the local minima. Okay, of these things. All right. So now recall the gradient descent rule for any particular parameter. You remember the rule that we actually applied. Okay. So say for example, I want to find update this parameter W1. So the rule is basically W new is equals to W old minus R into del E del W1. And that's the rule for this vanilla gradient descent. Okay. Now you have also seen the AdaGrad, you have also seen Adam and so on and so forth. But in everywhere, the quantity that you need to compute the derivative, the partial derivative of the error function with respect to that particular parameter which you are considering. Okay. Now here W1 old you start off with from randomly. R is also you set like empirically known to you. The only thing that is unknown to you is the del E del W1, and which you have to basically compute. And you have to compute for all parameters in this network. Not only one, but all. Okay, for all the parameters in the network. Okay. All right. So the biggest question, of course, is how can we compute del E del Wi? We know that that's the only way we can go forward. But then question is how we can compute. Okay. So here the question of efficiency comes into picture. Nothing else. That efficiency, because when you're dealing with a large network, you need to have efficient computation. Otherwise, this is going to take maybe months or maybe years and so on. Okay. All right. So let's compute the gradients. How we can compute the whole thing. You recall the chain rule on the graph computation that you have seen before. Okay. So let's try to compute the gradient. So let's first try to compute del E del W3. Okay, in case, so I'm showing this in the slide. In case you are confused, you can probably think in terms of the dependency relationship. Okay, so if you look at this particular graph, then what you see is that, so E is my error function. E depends on O3. Okay, the output of the network. O3 depends on I3, previous input. Then I3 depends on W3 because I want to compute partial derivative with respect to W3. Okay, and basically the I stop. It's just plain chain rule. You seem to remember the dependency relationship that I depend on you, you depend on someone else depend on someone else, and so on. and you simply follow that rule backward and you get it. Okay, so that is why del E del W3 is equal to del E del O3, del O3 del I3, del I3 del W3. Okay, and that's the kind of the gradient computation that you can do for del E del W3. All right, and then you can basically compute the partial derivative straight away. That's not a big deal, but it's the expression. All right, now if I want to compute del E del W2, what happens then? Okay, now the chain will get little longer than del E del W3 because now the dependency is more. Okay, so del E, so E depends on O3, O3 depends on I3, I3 depends on O2, O2 depends on I2, then I2 depends on W2. You simply look at this particular graph and the chain rule and you can see. So that is basically exactly the computation that I am following here. Okay, just a plain extension of the same rule. All right, now what we can do with del E del W1. Okay, similarly again same application that you see. Okay, you can straight away apply the whole thing. The chain even gets little longer than the previous one, and you have now I get 7 expressions in this. So 3 in the first, you have 3 expressions, then you have 5 expressions, then you have 7 expressions, and so on and so forth. Okay, and if you increase, you have more depth, then this multiplication thing is going to be increased. Okay, so just too many multiplication. All right. So that is how basically we can actually compute. Then basically you can go and compute the del E del I3 from this expression and all from this derivatives and so on and so forth. That's the straightforward thing. But that's the more or less the expression. All right. Similar way you can compute. I'm skipping that part. Similar way you can compute the derivative with respect to these b's, b1, b2, b3, and all kinds of stuff that I can actually do. Okay. All right. So now, having this, for example, all these things, del E, del W3 and all, okay, what is the trick that we can play? Now remember that I talked about that when you are dealing with a very big network, large network, the efficiency of computing the gradients is very, very important. Okay, that is why backpropagation came into picture. Now all I know here is nothing backpropagation in it. Okay, it's just like plain high school calculus that I'm doing here. Nothing backpropagation in it. Okay, I simply saw that how we can actually compute the individual gradients and all. Now where the backpropagation comes into picture here. Now let's look at this pattern of the derivative here, and then we will have an idea. So what is the pattern? If you look at this, now look at this expression, del E del W3 and del E del W2. Okay, there are 2 common parts marked by the green ones, the green color. So that's the common parts. Okay. Similarly, when the chain becomes longer, okay, now from del W2, del E del W2, del E del W1. Okay, so you can see the common expression, number of common terms, common expressions actually are even increasing. It's much common between del E and del W2 and del E del W1 compared to the other one. Okay, now can we make use of these commonality things? Okay, just like common sense, how can we use these common things in order to speed up the computation? That's what backpropagation does, nothing else. Okay. These common parts, for example, if you look at this expression, the common parts, the question, okay, let me just ask you this question. Now, if I ask you to compute the gradients, there are 3 gradients with respect to W3, W2, and W1, which one you would like to compute first? If anyone can answer.
Del E by del W3.
That one you want to compute first?
Del E by del W3.
Okay, that you want to compute first. Okay, any particular reason you want to do that?
So that can be used to calculate del E by del W2 directly.
Yeah, okay, that's right. So the question is that, so if you can compute del E del W3 fast, then you can see the green portion in this. Okay, the green portion is common to del E del W2. So when you compute daily del W3 and you simply store the green portion in some variable, in some table, then when you're computing daily del W2, you do not need to compute again that green part. You simply pick out the number from table. It's just like a table lookup. Okay, don't need to recompute the whole thing. Okay, simply, so you essentially minimizing the computation. Okay, similar way, when you're computing del W1, you already computed the 4 expressions marked by the blue color. Okay, and so you can basically store this, when you are computing these things, you're storing these things in the variable, and you straight away apply the whole thing and to compute it. Okay, but if you go other way around, for instance, first compute daily del W1, then there is no way you can reuse that. That's a difficult thing to do. Okay, so again you have to basically compute again and again and again. Okay, repeatedly. So which is basically wastage of computation time. So that is precisely the reason it is called back propagation. You are simply doing the same thing. You are going to achieve the same output, but simply by playing with these things a little bit, looking at the structure of this derivative and all, you can actually speed up the computation, by a very, very, very significant margin. Okay, and so that is why it is called back propagation. You are basically proceeding in backward direction from output to gradually to the input layers. Okay, so there is a nice rules which I will show in a moment when I will take a slightly complex network to kind of write it down in a very compact form, which you can straight away use it. By the way, this technique is known as dynamic programming in computer science. There's a whole dedicated discipline called dynamic programming in computer science algorithm design. In case you have taken any algorithm design course, you probably know it. So it is essentially storing the tabular values in the table. Okay, and you look at that there is some kind of dependency. So you simply pick out these values from the table and simply compute the whole thing. That's called dynamic programming. Okay. Any question? Anybody has any question? Okay, no question. Okay, can I ask you one question maybe? Yeah. So say you have think about very simple network like this. Okay, you have only one feature, you have only 2 output, let me 2 binary classification tasks, and then you have taken say n hidden nodes. Okay, that means n hidden layer, and every layer will have only 1 hidden node. Okay, so just like linear network, something like this. Okay, but instead of 2 in this case, you have now n hidden layers. Okay, that's my question. Now my question for you is this: is that how many partial derivative? Okay, rather the expression length of the expression you have to compute when you are computing daily del W1. If you are unable to follow my question, let me know. I can repeat again. So you have n hidden layers. Of course, every hidden layer will have only 1 node. Okay. Now, how many expressions you have to manipulate when you are computing daily del W1? So by expression, what I mean is that there are
2 times length of that from 2 times the length from input layer to output layer.
2 times the length of
from input layer to output layer, shortest path from input.
So what would be that value? Because I have mentioned there are
output nodes.
There are n hidden nodes.
For 3 years.
So it will be 2n.
It will be 2n. It will be 2n. Okay. Any other answer? 2n certainly is not, because it has to be odd. Because
so 3n.
Expression, right?
2n plus 1.
2n plus 1.
2n plus 1, you were saying? Okay, any other response?
Sir, 3n.
Yeah. 3n?
Sir, 2n plus 3.
2n plus 3. Okay, so there are too many responses. Like
So-
I have 2n plus 1, then 3n, then 2n plus 3, and all. Okay.
So in this
Any
case,
other-
don't we have 3 layers, 3 hidden layers?
Okay, so just for simplicity, I mean, for notational, I mean, the way, because many people basically talk about many different ways. So what I'm saying is that you can think about the first and the last, basically the input and the output, and you can think about the middle one. In that sense, I'm talking about. Okay. So in this particular network, you have 2 hidden layers actually.
So the 3 is the output layer.
Yeah. Correct. So essentially, in your network, there will have n plus 2 nodes, right? Because one input, then one output, and then you have n intermediate nodes. So total, like the n plus 2 that you have. Okay, number of nodes. Just to clarify the question a little bit. So what would be the value then?
Into n plus 2 minus 1.
What is that?
2 into n plus 2 minus 1.
2 into n plus 2 minus 1. Okay. Now I see. Frankly, I haven't computed this number. Just question came up in my mind. I'm asking it. So, like, maybe you can verify among yourselves, like kind of peer grading or peer evaluation. The number is correct. Anybody who want to counter this 2 into n plus 2 minus 1? So for every, for every parameter, if you move from right to left, for every parameter you are taking, you are increasing this factor by 2, right? So first 3, then 5, then 7, and things like this. Okay, so you are increasing by 2 actually because of input and output, right? Okay, what would be the final answer? Because I haven't computed the number.
3n plus 3.
Just a quick question.
For the given derivative, it is satisfying. Like if you put in like n equals to 0, so just we have just the input and the output nodes, then that will be WE by W, del E by del W3. So if you put n equals to 0, so 0 plus 2 is 2, 2 into 2, 4, minus 1, which is 3. And we have 3 derivatives for del E by del W3. Similarly, it's satisfying for del E by del W2 when we put the value of n equals to 1. And when we put the value of n equals to 2, it is satisfying for del E by del W1.
By the way, how many weight parameters there the network will have? The network that I talked about.
N plus 1.
N plus 1. Okay, all right, n plus 1. On biases?
Again, n plus 1.
Biases will have also n plus 1? Yeah, bias is also n plus
Yeah,
1.
we are considering
So how many, what is the number of expression for del E del W n plus 1?
Sorry.
Number of expression in del E del W n plus 1. W n plus 1 as in the n plus 1th weight parameter.
Okay, so that would be n plus 1 minus 2.
So partial derivative of this error function with respect to parameter n plus 1, weight parameter n plus 1. That's my question.
Two into n plus 3 minus 1.
No, I guess no.
Okay.
So because see, n plus 1 parameter means the parameter at the, I mean, this rightmost, is connecting the last two nodes. Okay, so in this case, for example, W3,
Oh.
for instance.
Oh, I thought
It has to be 3, no,
the
right?
other way. I thought of the first one.
Yeah, I understood that. Yeah, it has to be 3, right?
Yes, it will be 3.
Okay, then what about daily del W n? Daily del W n? Number of expression? The previous
5.
5, 3 plus 2, right?
Yes, that will be
Similarly,
Yeah.
daily del W n minus 1.
7.
Yeah, now can you just come up with the formula daily del W I? Daily del W I.
So we'll need to know the total number of hidden layers. So if that is capital N, and then we're trying to calculate del Wi, so there we can then formulate it with capital N minus I plus 2, 2 into 2 times of that minus 1.
Okay, all right. I mean, just
We need to know the number of layers.
Yeah. Okay, all right. So basically, yeah, you can compute it. I mean, it should be like straightforward. Okay, so my the purpose of asking this question is this. Okay, it's not about simple like this, like plain arithmetic that you can do. But the question is this: that now in every non-input node, okay, is now there is a thing called the activation function, which is actually performing this activation non-linearity, right? That's what you are doing now. For instance, in this particular expression, so if you think about del E del W1, for instance, okay, the leftmost parameter. Now, how many activation function derivative you have to manipulate? Three, right? For del E del W1.
Yes.
Derivative of the activation function. So how many such things are there? So, okay. So in case you have having difficulty, let me just explain. Okay. So here, if you look at del E del W1, the activation function is what? That you are applying f function f on input. So O1, O2, and O3 are the three things where you are basically manipulating the activation function, right? So the moment you take derivative of O1 with respect to I1, you have 1, then O2 with respect to I2, then you have 1, and so on and so forth. So there are three actually, right? Del E, del W1. There are three derivatives involving the activation functions. There are three such things in this particular expression. So you agree or you disagree? So anybody who disagrees, feel free to tell this. Okay. Any doubt? Okay, maybe you can answer this question. What is the number of such expression, the activation function expression derivative in daily del W2?
Two.
2, yeah, exactly. And daily del W3, there is only 1, right? Okay. Now, so the thing is that particular thing, okay, how many expressions are there, at least derivative of this activation function, will depend on the length of the chain. Okay. So if the chain becomes very, very, long, that means the number of expression of that particular derivative will also increase. Okay. And so which is a pretty common case in deep neural network, because deep means you are taking too many hidden layers. Okay. And that means basically the chain is actually increasing. Okay. Now, what is this problem with this? The problem with this is that, say, let me ask you this question again, simple question, that you have an activation function as sigmoid function. Okay, sigmoid function as your activation function. Okay, now the sigmoid function is your activation function. What problem it is going to create? Okay, for a very deep network. You can focus on the number of expressions on the sigmoid function that to manipulate in any chain. Okay, and then you can probably straight away answer this.
The function would be less than 1. So multiplying those values, it will gradually keep on decreasing with the increasing number of derivatives that we have. So it would be like nearing 0.
Right, absolutely correct. So if you take, for example, a network with 100 hidden layers, for instance, okay, then as you know, in that case, so basically there will be, for example, in every chain, there will be 101 such expressions, the derivative of the activation function. So one more for the output layer. Okay. Now the derivative of the activation function, if you take, for example, sigmoid function, is actually less than 1. Okay. So what happens is that you are multiplying 101 less than 1 numbers, okay, which becomes very, very small. Okay. So what is the consequences of that? Do you have any idea? Can anybody tell me what is the consequences of that?
The weights in the further iterations won't change, because we'll be calculating this daily by del wn, daily by del w. That will be very close to 0. So we won't be subtracting anything from the weight. So weights won't change.
Right, absolutely correct. So that is one of the biggest problem for sigmoid function. So for deep net at least. Okay. So when you have very deep net, then the almost all the derivative is going to be close to 0, and as a result, you see hardly any change. Okay. So you remember this rule: theta nu is equals to theta old minus r into derivative. And derivative is very small, so you are not changing the values at all. So either the network won't learn, okay, or even if it learns very, very slowly, and so on. Okay, which is basically of no use. So that is precisely the reason that the sigmoid the activation function should be chosen carefully. Okay, it has to be very, very carefully chosen. Okay. Now, and I will basically stop after the discussion. So therefore, you remember the ReLU function. Okay. The ReLU function you probably remember is max of 0, x. So whatever it is taking, if it is greater than 0, then it is the same value you return, and if it is less than or equals to 0, you simply return 0. That's what you do. Okay. So in this case, if I take ReLU for example, do you see the same kind of problem it is happening here?
No.
Can you explain why you are saying so?
Because ReLU doesn't necessarily require the derivative to like be between -1 to 1. So it can be proportional to the value of x. So that can be more than 1. So not necessarily that the gradients will decrease.
Can you please repeat? I couldn't follow you very clearly. If you don't mind, could you please repeat?
So I think that in case of ReLU, since it doesn't necessarily need to be like between -1 to 1. So
Right.
on multiplying any value that is, so that problem of like having a value between -1 to 1 and keeping multiplying long number of terms, so that problem would not happen with ReLU. That's my guess.
Okay. And so when can ReLU make no update? Can you tell us one situation when?
Yeah,
Think
if
about simple network like this.
like
So when derivative is 0.
And when that can happen really?
When the input value is negative.
Negative buzzer, yes. Yeah. So if any one of these neuron produces less than or 0 value, okay, negative value or even 0, then your entire thing is going to be 0, right? Because this is multiplication. Yeah, that's correct. All right. Now, one final question. So, what if I take simply f of x equals to x rather than ReLU, I take simply f of x equals to x. That's my activation function. So I'm not doing anything. I'm simply transforming what I have received. What is the problem with that? My question is clear to you, or should I repeat?
It will always decrease.
It will always
Decrease.
decrease. Yeah, but that's all right. But probably you are talking that from derivatives perspective. But in terms of the network's capability, okay, if you simply take the activation function to be linear function, so in terms of network's capability, do you see any problem? So see, there are a couple of things in neural network. One is the architecture, what it can actually express, it can model, it can learn, one thing. And the second is basically the training issues involved. Okay. So what we have discussed so far, like the training issues in terms of the numerical underflow, zero division, zero things and things like that. Okay. Now my question is, just to give you a hint, my question is related to this, that instead of taking ReLU or sigmoid or this kind of stuff, if we simply take the function that is a linear function, f of x equals to x. Now, is that going to be a problematic thing for a deep neural network?
like so if we directly take the linear mapping instead of like taking 0 for negative values, then maybe since we're multiplying so many values, it will be a very large value. So the change in W will be very large rather than gradual.
Okay, all right. Any other explanation? Yeah, there is a very broad literature and what right now going on. At least the trend is that people are trying to understand the learnability and things, all these things in neural network. Okay, what it can learn, what it cannot learn, and things like that. So it's probably a much more advanced question. But anyway, I'm trying to understand what you think about from your intuition. Okay, so that what you said, that might be a possibility, but I haven't thought about that. But the straight answer from me, at least what I understand, is that so when you are doing linear transformation, okay, f of x equals to x, things like this. So you are doing linear transformation, so just like linear function. So remember that a neural network is nothing but a composition of functions. You agree or disagree?
Yes, sir.
A composition of functions, right? All right. Now, if your activation function is basically f of x equals to x, then at the end of composition, what you are going to get? You are going to get linear thing on the input, just a linear function, right?
Yes.
Because it's simply f of x you simply doing linear combination of things. At the end of the thing, from input to output is again a linear function. And as you know, linear function is no good for any real good thing. They cannot, linear functions can only model like a plane or maybe a straight line and things like that. They cannot model a car. Okay, if the decision boundary is something like car. So that's the problematic. Okay, so you cannot, in some of the applications, you may get good results, but not always. And that is why all activation functions are non-linear. Okay, for any like good purpose. But you can see that the car is somewhere is actually breaking, taking different shapes and all that you can see. Okay, so those are the things which I will discuss. So once I am done with the basics, I will actually give you a very concrete guidelines how to actually design network, how to train it, what are the practical issues, and all kinds of stuff I will give gradually. Okay, but let me just cover the basics first, and then I will get into all those. Okay, so I believe we can stop today, and thank you for all these questions and engagements. So tomorrow we'll have a lab session, and tomorrow we'll actually going to see like hands-on the designing networks and how you can train, how you can tune, and all kinds of stuff. So please be there. Okay. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.